Chicago Bulls star Zach LaVine has now demanded a trade from the Bulls. And is this really surprising? It's not. It's not shocking. It's not sensational. It's none of that. Our sources told us yesterday that Zach LaVine and the Bulls have had extensive conversations over the last couple of weeks when it became apparently clear after the Alex Caruso disaster that the Bulls were going to go into a rebuild. And then DeMar DeRozan followed him out the door almost immediately. Zach LaVine began talking to the Bulls, and I am told by NBA sources those conversations did not go well. And Zach made it very clear he did not want to be a member of the Chicago Bulls this coming season, and he wants to be traded. And the interesting part of this is Zach LaVine demanding a trade, while I don't think it changes much for 9 out of 10 NBA teams, it's certainly the timing of it brings his contract into interesting light with the efforts of the Utah Jazz to trade Lauri Markkanen. And I think that is going to happen. Yesterday, also of note on that deal, I'll tell you about in a minute, but yesterday was the first day that somebody told me, yeah, they're trading Markkanen almost certainly. That's the first time I'd heard that about the Jazz. But I think Zach LaVine opens up another pathway for teams like Golden State to get better. I don't necessarily believe that Zach LaVine is a replacement for Lauri Markkanen. I think they play two different positions. I think stylistically they are completely different players. But when you talk about dynamic offensive threats, there is no question that Lauri Markkanen and Zach LaVine are the two best offensive players currently available in trade in the NBA, which I think is impactful because I believe the Bulls thought they could keep Zach LaVine and that he would be happy to be the centerpiece of their team. And well, it turns out that's not the case. And if indeed he winds up being on another team other than Chicago, Jake, I think this might be one of the worst off seasons in the history of the NBA that we are watching unfold in Chicago right now.
Absolutely. And I think that, it's been so documented, the lack of return value for, Caruso and obviously DeMar and so the Zach LaVine situation's playing out, and you start to wonder, hey, like, how bad is this one going to be? How bad are they going to mess this one up? Because I do think that the Bulls have messed this up. I mean, you can't simply get Josh Giddey and some menial value for guys like Alex Caruso. I mean, Caruso is a very valuable piece on a championship caliber club, and so to me, the idea that you would send him west, obviously, and put him on an OKC team that, is already pretty good. You understand why OKC wants to do that, but I don't understand from the Bulls side why you did that. So when I look at the LaVine thing, I'm sitting here saying, like, dude, like, Zach LaVine is someone who is always hurt. There's no question about that. That's your first question. Does the guy play 50 games this year? And the answer is probably no. But on a playoff team, and a team that can consistently compete, does Zach's 45 game season have a big impact? Because we've seen this around the league where you've got guys on teams who seemingly don't play a ton of regular season games, but are available enough to make a big enough impact to be worth it. And I think that's the conversation with teams for Zach. Is Zach LaVine worth the trouble? Is Zach LaVine worth the money? Is he somebody who can reasonably push us to another level? And I don't know that I can confidently say that. I mean, Zach is a 2-time All-Star at this point in his career. He's someone that is really fun to watch, but he doesn't strike me as that guy that truly, goes to this team or that team and just puts you over the top. So that's where I think when you start demanding a trade, you put your organization in a really tough spot, because obviously you don't want to be there and you want to get paid, I'm sure, on your next deal. But to get paid on your next deal, you got to get to a good situation. And you're not going to get to a good situation if you're hurt all the time. So I think that's the difficult part of Zach LaVine's existence.
He's got about $130 million left on his deal. He's got 3 years. The third year's a player option. It's $48 million. He's not opting out of that. So his money is far less attractive than Lauri Markkanen's deal. And this is, again, I'll continue to say, I think when we compare these two, and you do it. You can't make a comparison on the floor. I don't think with this kind of salary that you can make a comparison off of it unless you factor in the part of the equation that has Lauri Markkanen getting extended by whichever team picks him up. Because Markkanen is not going to go somewhere without the guarantee of an extension, and he is due. The soonest that the Jazz or anybody else can extend him is August 6th. And obviously, if the Jazz extend him after August 6th, he cannot be traded this season. And again, I think with Lauri Markkanen's situation, yesterday was the first time that I was told that there is a belief growing around the NBA that the Jazz will trade him. And I think this week I'd put it at 65%. I'm going to leave it there because the Jazz are unpredictable. You have no idea what they're going to do. There is no rhyme or reason. It does not seem that there is a common sense, part of their basketball equation. It makes sense if you're the Jazz and where they are and whatever the hell this is they're doing, rebuild, suck for flag, however we want to call it.
I believe the coined term on X was gag for flag. That's what X had going for Cooper Flag.
How did I know that?
So
you would have an answer to that.
I think that the trolls and what is your favorite term? The hyenas, the sleuths, the grifters, that part of the NBA community really would like to see Markkanen get traded and the Jazz go and get Cooper Flag. And I have to say again, for the Jazz, I think it makes perfect sense. You got him. Like, I don't see how it makes sense for the Jazz to extend Lauri Markkanen. That to me, like with the money that he has earned, in my opinion, the money that he deserves to be paid, I don't understand why you would give him that money. Why would you not do the deal? Move him along. Go out and stay on rookie deals and extend that window where you're a budget-friendly team and just go down that path. I mean, I tend to agree with you. Like, they are unpredictable. You don't know what they're going to do. And so I wish I could sit here and confidently say, yeah, you know what? A Markkanen deal is going to get done and they're going to move him along and we'll see Steph and Markkanen and all those guys and everything will be great. But, again, like, you just can't count on it. And I think that's what makes it so difficult and why we've heard repeatedly, this year and in prior years under Danny Ainge with the Jazz, that people get frustrated because you just don't know what they're trying to do, man. Like, there's no logic.
Because it's not predictable. I think that's the hardest part. I believe the Jazz will trade Lauri Markkanen. I believe that he will wind up in Golden State. That cannot happen until they move Andrew Wiggins, which is another major contract that is problematic. I think one of the more interesting conversations around Golden State is this Jonathan Kuminga question. It does not seem that Golden State wants to trade Jonathan Kuminga. I don't value Jonathan Kuminga at that level. I don't think he's a generational talent. I think he is a perfect fit on a team like the Utah Jazz where he's not going to be counted on to win playoff games. He is not in the next 3 years likely going to be counted on in big situations because they won't have one.
Mm-hmm.
And he can grow into whatever kind of player he's going to be in a very low pressure situation. Whereas if you're the Golden State Warriors, you're on the clock with Steph Curry. And you need a guy standing next to Steph Curry who can perform in the biggest moments. And you're an organization, frankly, that plays for championships now. That's who the Golden State Warriors have morphed into. Is Jonathan Kuminga a player of that model? Do you buy into the idea that Jonathan Kuminga can be a player that is the reason you win a championship? Because I'm telling you, he's not that guy.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to turn into quite that good of a player. I don't. Yeah, I think that's a great way to kind of characterize it. Is he a guy that is the reason you win a championship? Is a great way to characterize how to evaluate Kuminga. And no, he's not that guy. He's not. His top end, in my opinion, is not that high. I do think he can turn into an all-star. I do think he has the ability, the talent, the athleticism to turn into a phenomenal number two. When I say number two, I'm talking about guys who, are not the best player on the team, but are that second guy that's a real problem to defend. And that's who Kuminga should turn into. And I think that what I do believe is that if there was an organization to get that out of him, it is the Golden State Warriors. They've proven time and time again that they know how to develop guys. So I think that's what makes it difficult. And also, I would say you understand why the Warriors are kind of hesitant to give up Jonathan Kuminga when they're talking about acquiring Markkanen, because you'd love to have Steph, Kuminga, and Markkanen together. That's a group that can score. That's a group that can be dynamic. And I do think, to your point, with Steph being on the clock here as far as his career is concerned, Steph could play. Obviously contingent on the style of play, but Steph could play another 5-6 seasons at least, because he's such an elite shooter. But to do that, what do you need? Well, obviously you need guys who can carry the load a little bit more. So that's why I think they want to keep Kuminga.
Well, I'm curious about Podziemski. I don't. Is he also a generational talent? I don't think so. I mean, who do you value more? I mean, that for me, and I'm not, Podziemski's a guy that I think his salary, all those things he's 21 years old.
Yeah, he's a youngster.
So he's not making money. Neither is Kuminga, who's 22. Kuminga's at 7.6. Podziemski's at 3.5. I mean, they're not contracts of consequence. You're forecasting forward. And the honest answer is I don't know that Podziemski or Kuminga turn into that guy, right? Like, Podziemski obviously is on a rookie deal that's got this year and 2 club options before he becomes restricted. Like, his contract just is not of consequence. But I look at somebody like Kuminga. Jonathan Kuminga is going to be that guy that is, after this season, you're going to have to do something with him. And is he a guy that you want to give a $20 million contract to? I'm not the guy that probably wants to pay him that money.
No.
I just don't believe that, in my opinion, Jonathan Kuminga is that difference-making player. I'm not on that.
Yeah.
That's just me.
And like I said, again, I think that Jonathan Kuminga definitely has to take some steps forward and definitely still has to develop. There's no question about that. But I think he can be a phenomenal number 2 player. You're not building around Jonathan Kuminga, but what you are doing with Jonathan Kuminga is you're putting him in your starting 5, and you're asking him to fill a role within that starting 5. And it's this dynamic in the league where the best teams in the league are built on duos now, right? We see it repeatedly. It used to be big 3s, now it's big 2s, if you will, or duos. And Jonathan Kuminga is that guy that would either be the second piece of a duo or would be the third piece in addition to a duo. And that's why I say, for the Jazz, to me, the Jazz want Kuminga for the wrong reasons. And that's why the Warriors are being stubborn. The Jazz want Kuminga because they want to hold him for 2 seasons and then flip him into something more. And I understand that. But ultimately, these two are going to have to figure out how to make money work in this deal. And that's what I think the huge, question mark, circle, triple underline thing is. How are they going to make all the money work, and who's going to pick up Andrew Wiggins? And Kuminga, I would be surprised if the Warriors let Kuminga go in this. I would.
But if you're going to keep him, don't you have to play him?
Yeah.
I mean, he averages something, like 22 minutes a night, I think, or 20 minutes a night.
Well, now there's going to be more minutes because Clay's not there. And if Lauri's there, then you're going to have to figure out, okay, well, what is our commitment to Kuminga?
So you wouldn't trade him for Lauri Markkanen? If Danny Ainge said, yeah, I'll do this deal, but, I'm not. I'm only doing this deal if Jonathan Kuminga is involved in it.
If it's Kuminga, then I'm not giving as many picks. You can't have all our picks and Jonathan Kuminga.
So you'll give 2 first, because they can effectively, Golden State, trade 2 first-round picks.
Yeah.
So you'd trade 2 first-round picks. Kuminga, would you include Podziemski as well, or no?
Yeah, probably.
You would?
Yeah, well, because I just don't think that again, I mean, I don't watch the guy on a nightly basis,
I
but
would
I don't.
not.
Well, but what
I'm
do you think
keeping one of
he's-
those too. I mean, listen, the original deal was something to the effect of Kuminga and Moody, 2 first-round picks.
I mean, Moody's more palatable, but are you really? So here's the question then. If that's what the deal is hinging on essentially is how much do the Warriors care about winning another title, potentially 2 inside of Steph's window?
I think they care a lot.
Okay, so if they care a lot and that's the priority, then their focus and their commitment is on getting Lauri Markkanen. So you should care more about getting the deal done and less about what you're giving up if that's what you care about. So in that scenario, yeah, I guess you would give up Pod and Kuminga. I guess. I mean, I don't want to give up. I wouldn't necessarily love to give up both of those guys, but if I'm trying to win a championship, then I'm probably cool with that, because ultimately, if Lauri Markkanen is a Golden State Warrior, that's a very dangerous team. A very dangerous team, a team that can play defense, a team that really should be able to battle in the West. Like, you should be able to do some good things.
Yeah, look, I think there is no doubt in my mind that Pods is a guy that you should keep over Kuminga. That's just my opinion.
I think he's more valuable long term.
Yeah, and I think Jonathan Kuminga is a limited player because I don't ever see him being a prolific two-way player. I don't ever.
Yeah.
You can't tell me this guy is so valuable. You're only playing him 20 minutes a night. And Moody plays less than that, by the way. I think Moody plays 15 minutes a night.
Mm-hmm.
I don't buy it. I don't know. J-Rod for $5. Why do you think the Jazz should push for? Who do you think the Jazz should push for if they trade with the Warriors? I would want Podziemski. I'd want Pods more than I would want Kuminga. But
I mean, do you think that Pods have? I guess the question for the Jazz is, who has more value when you go to trade them if you're the Utah Jazz? Because that's the thing. Like,
well,
I don't necessarily believe, once again, that in this trade, that whether it's Kuminga or Pods, I don't believe that you're sitting here saying, yeah, we're going to develop these guys and they're going to be in the organization 10 years. I don't believe that for a second. I think you're doing this deal to get picks, and you're doing this deal to flip these guys.
Well, I think Kuminga is probably the guy with the higher upside. I think Pods he's a really good player. I think Moody is a upper 30% shooter, 37% from 3.
I mean, I think Pods can be an elite point guard in this league. He's definitely more of a facilitator than a scorer, for sure. But he can be a really good contributor on a team. There's no question.
Yeah, I think we just don't know. I mean, you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, the guy 10 points a game, 4 assists a game, shooting 39% from 3. I mean, that is those numbers are good. The guy is 21 years old. Won't be 22 until after the All-Star break. I mean, he's very young. I would be, if I'm Danny Ainge, I want 2 first-round picks, Moody and Kuminga. And I would do that deal. I think ultimately
ask. That's reasonable.
Yeah, I think ultimately what winds up happening here is I think the Warriors will find a taker for Wiggins. I think it's probably I also heard something for the first time yesterday about this being a 4-team deal. Because if you can do one deal to make Markkanen a Warrior, to make Wiggins something other than a Warrior,
yeah.
I think if you do that deal, you're probably, with the money that we're talking about, I think you're certainly going to need 3 and a minimum of 4. And I think this trade gets done if 3 first-round picks. I think the trade gets done, because you got to remember Wiggins has, what is that, 30, 50, 70. He's got about $84 million left in a player option on the 3rd year of that, 26, 27.
Which you already know he's picking up.
But it's only $30 million. And I say only. In this day and age, that's not a lot of money.
But for Wiggs, that's because the thing with Wiggs is that he had such a huge rise with the Warriors. He came to the Warriors after having a lot of off the court issues. He was kind of he just didn't fit in Minnesota. It wasn't like a great situation for him for whatever reason. It just didn't work. And so he gets traded or whatever. He leaves there, gets to the Warriors, and Steve Kerr and that organization do what they do. And they turned him into an elbow shooting savage and a great defender. And they got the chip and everything's awesome. And then after that, everything's just gone downhill. Yeah. So I agree, by today's economics in the league, $30 million might not be a lot, but for Andrew Wiggins, you can be damn sure he's picking up that option.
Yep, I agree. Make sure you hit the like button right now if you're watching on YouTube. What's up, everybody, on the X platform?
X.
I'm getting more comfortable calling Twitter X now. What's up, everybody, on Twitter? Make sure you come on over to YouTube, hit subscribe on the Monty Show, link in the Twitter bio. Appreciate everybody. We are averaging about more than 1,000 views now. We've only been streaming on Twitter full time as a way of life for about 3 weeks, and we're already over 1,000 views a day now on Twitter. We really appreciate that. Today is Giving Friday. We are giving away an Xbox Series X on the show today, and a copy of NCAA Football 25 from EA Sports. All you have to do is donate to the Advocates. Let me put it up there. Let me put the donation thing. Excuse my incompetence. Where the heck is there? It is right there.
Thank you.
On Venmo, the Advocates are Advocates donations. We have our first entrant, which is
Maury Alvarez.
Monty Show school kids. Zach for Lauri would definitely be interesting. I look forward to seeing what will play out. Maury Alvarez in the running now.
Let's go,
for his Xbox Series X. It's that simple. All you have to do is make a donation to the Advocates on Venmo. Put Monty for school kids, Monty Road Home, Monty whatever. Great. Monty for the school kids is awesome. Send Jake a screenshot of your Venmo donation, and you're entered to win the Xbox Series X and the NCAA Football 25. It is that simple.
And I have to say, we're going to do it the whole show, right? But I have to say, it does get more competitive as the show goes on.
Yeah, well, obviously it's Friday, and we have affectionately called the show Sleepy Friday.
Yeah.
So, example, Tanner Plummer decided to get out of bed today. Appreciate that, Tanner. Brett Robbins, hello. Keep Markkanen for capture the flag deal.
Oh, you got to capture the flag, Marty.
But here's the problem, though. If you keep Lauri Markkanen, how many games does he play this year? Because if you're trying to get Cooper Flag, are you really telling me, if you're trying to get Cooper Flag, are you telling me that you're going to play Lauri Markkanen 70 games this year?
Yeah, dude's got a bruised fingernail. He's going to be out tonight.
I don't see that happening. Keaton Critchlow. Hello, Keaton. Good to see you. Yes, we show up. J-Rod, $5 more. What do you think the Jazz would want for a Spurs trade? I think the Spurs are a little worn out on making a Markkanen deal. Now, I think if you look at, I don't think the Spurs want this deal one-on-one. They could make that deal. They have everything you need to make that deal. And I think and this is just my opinion. I think the Warriors are in this long term. They understand the contract ramifications. From what I understand, they have spoken to, with the permission of the Jazz, they have spoken to Lauri Markkanen's side. They understand the finances of it. They understand the August 6th deadline. We have 3 weeks before that deadline, before the Jazz actually have to do something.
So you have time.
This is not something, and I told you this 2 weeks ago when we started talking about this. This is not something that's going to happen tomorrow, because there's no reason for it to happen fast.
Mm-hmm.
The Jazz, I think, are not in a hurry to trade Lauri Markkanen. I don't think they want to trade a guy the caliber, the human being the citizen and the basketball player of a Lauri Markkanen. I think it's tough to find that deal. But I think Danny Ainge is pragmatic. And I think they don't want to make the same mistake that they made with Jordan Clarkson. And I think, as we've reported in the long term, Ryan Smith interjected himself into that Jordan Clarkson situation and personally got involved and changed Jordan Clarkson's mind, which is still to this day baffling, because I think I've asked repeatedly about that. Jordan Clarkson just does not have value right now.
Well, and that's the issue. I mean, when you did whatever Ryan did, I don't know what Ryan did. I mean, he did get involved. We know that, but I don't know like what he said or like what the situation was. Whatever he did at that time, Clarkson did have value, and that was and still continues to be my biggest thing for the Jazz, is understanding where you are and where you're going. I mean, I don't think that the Jazz appreciated the idea of, hey, Jordan Clarkson is a now or never proposition. If we keep him, we're going to dump him for scraps. Like, we're going to dump him for not much. And hey, if that's you're that committed to one guy, I guess I get it. But that just didn't seem like a good move.
And I still maintain, you look at this situation with the Warriors, and I just don't know how, if you do not make a deal for Andrew Wiggins, how do you afford to extend Lauri Markkanen? Because you're already paying the luxury tax. Who are you, the Phoenix Suns? Did you see the Phoenix Suns have a $400 million payroll? Between their salaries and their luxury tax, it's $400 million. And I think you look at the situation. Obviously, the owners of the Golden State Warriors have proven time and again they're willing to pay any price. But you cannot pay Andrew Wiggins and Lauri Markkanen. Lauri Markkanen is, and if you don't know his contract situation, Lauri Markkanen's deal is eligible for extension on August 6th. Per the terms of the collective bargaining agreement in the NBA, the day he signs that deal, he cannot be traded for 6 months. 6 months have to pass, then you can trade Lauri Markkanen. The NBA trade deadline is February 6th. So the only way you can trade him at the deadline is if you sign him on that exact day of August 6th. So now you're in a position where, if you are the Golden State Warriors and you look at Wiggins' deal, 24 this year, 26, 28, and then a player option for 30 and 26, 27. You look at their situation at Golden State, and you very quickly begin to understand that they are at, right now today, $60 million over the first apron. They're $105 million over the second apron. They have about $5.4 million on the tax. And it is going to be, dude, it's going to be rough. They're at right now, they're paying $14.6 million in luxury tax right now today.
Mm-hmm.
So if you add, and I'm pretty certain that they would, if you just added Lauri Markkanen's current deal at $18 million, you're pushing that threshold higher. So then let's say that you renegotiate Markkanen's deal, which is what's going to play out is Markkanen's going to have his deal renegotiated for this coming season, and then he will sign an extension. The reason he has to renegotiate his deal this season is because if he wants the maximum on the next contract, he can't get that because he's only making $18 million. So he doesn't qualify for that maximum extension. So if you renegotiate his deal, and I think the number's $34 million this year, he is then eligible for a maximum extension. So if he stays with the Jazz, they're going to renegotiate his deal and extend him. if he gets traded and he gets traded before August 6th, whoever picks him up will have to renegotiate and extend his contract. The Warriors cannot do that in their current situation. And the other part is you have a lot of restrictions based on the fact you're over the cap already. So you can't just trade for Lauri Markkanen and absorb his contract because you don't have cap space. So this idea that they can keep Andrew Wiggins, and I think that's why you're seeing when you look around the NBA, and yes, I'm going to tell you again, we're the ones that broke that story. Now you're seeing all the other national writers. What are they talking about now? Oh, well, Lauri's got this contract situation. Oh, well, the Warriors want Lauri Markkanen. Yeah, they're going to have to trade Andrew Wiggins to get him. And if you look at those parameters, it's very clear to anybody who knows shit from Shinola about NBA salaries and NBA trades. The Golden State Warriors can't have Andrew Wiggins and Lauri Markkanen on that roster because there's no way that you can make a deal that facilitates that.
Mm-hmm.
That's really where this trade is going to get done. And it's why I continue to tell you, monitor what Golden State's doing in the trade market. Don't let the contracts of a guy like a Buddy Hield, impact you, because I think that's a very different conversation.
Yeah, and I think that the other thing real quick that I would say before we get to the next thing is I don't want to hear. So let's assume that this trade doesn't get done. Let's say if the trade doesn't get done, I don't want to hear from the Jazz and from Markkanen that they couldn't figure out how to get an extension done. Because the worst thing you can do here if you're the Jazz is not do a deal and then not extend Lauri, and then he walks for nothing. He refuses to sign with you because he doesn't appreciate the way that he was handled, the way that you operated in this situation. So that's why I say right now, everything's fine. He's working hard. He's in the facilities doing his thing. Everything's awesome. We're still in, the team and the player are on the same page. But if you don't trade him and then we get to, extension time and you don't pay dude what he's due, what he has earned, that would be very Utah Jazz, in my opinion. That would be very, hey, we didn't get a deal done because we were too stubborn and now Ryan doesn't want to pay, so we're going to let him walk.
Right. And I think the other thing you got to remember is that, there's a lot of people saying, well, why don't they just trade Moody and Kuminga for, why don't they just trade him for Lauri Markkanen and call it a day? Warriors can't do that. They're over the luxury tax. So I think there's just a lot of people who don't understand. We love to throw out, as fans, we love to throw out trade scenarios.
Yeah.
We love to say, oh, well, just throw this guy in and throw that guy. It doesn't work that way. The Warriors don't have the cap space and they're in the luxury tax. They cannot take on a penny of salary through trade.
Yeah.
So the only way you change that, and I think it is a minimum of a 3-team deal, is you move Andrew Wiggins off your books and you add Lauri Markkanen, you extend him, and you go on about your business. But you are not going to make this deal 1v1. It's almost impossible for the Jazz and the Warriors to make that deal 1v1. I don't know what it would take. I don't think, and again, we were the first ones to report it, that this is why you have the Warriors out trying to find a third team or a partner, a dance partner on Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah.
It's really as simple as that. All right. Before we get back to your questions, let's look at Giving Friday, because Jake is feverishly sending me screenshots. Now, the drill today. We are giving away on the show. One person is going to win an Xbox Series X today on the show and a copy of EA Sports College Football 25. Releasing on Monday. We're going to, wow, another one.
Yeah.
We are going to hook you up with that.
Yes.
For one person today.
Yes.
It is really that simple. And I have to accept it before it shows up. Bro, I'm not used to you working on Fridays. So your boy is kind of
But
tripping.
admittedly, I'm not used to me working on Fridays. So this is a little foreign.
So you want to win an Xbox Series X? Let's do that. You want to win a copy of EA Sports NCAA College Football 25, whatever the hell. It's EA Sports College Football 25.
It's in the game.
It's in the game.
Yeah.
Let's do it. You already know that our guy Maury Alvarez, first one in, $25.
Yes.
Wow, look at that.
Brandon Butler,
$113.20. Monty Show for the kids. If you know, you know.
That's right.
Okay. I like it, Brandon.
This is Eric and Raleigh.
Eric and Raleigh, $25 on the Monty Show. Eric, the resident Warrior homer.
Yes. And then this is Justin Jackson.
Justin Jackson, the Monty Show for the kids, hoping for the pro rata I deserve, 25. The pro rata I deserve.
Well played. I like it.
The pro rata I deserve.
See what Justin did here? This is making it better right here. That's well played, dude.
That's awesome.
Now, I do want to comment real quick on Brandon Butler's. What made you go with? Now,
that's what I was looking at.
What made you go with $113.20? I'm trying to understand. If you know, you know. Is that a reference to the amount or just the Marty Show portion?
Is that a 1320 K-Fan reference?
Is that what that is?
I don't know. But I love it.
But thank you. Yes, great donation.
And dollar-wise, Brandon Butler's got to be in the lead.
Yeah, I mean that's got him. That's got him.
Hoping for the pro rata I deserve.
Yes.
See, that's what I like. It's the cryptic messages in the memo section on Venmo.
Yes.
Right. Not, hey, I want to win the Xbox. That's not creative. What we want to see is the pro rata I deserve. Hey, I want all the heat off the rollers. I was going to say I want all the fecal matter off the rollers. Please don't. Not sure the advocates would enjoy that one.
Yeah. I mean, it's an art form. So it's not necessarily. Now, Brandon has donated the most, and so he deserves credit for that.
Absolutely.
But I want you guys to know it's not necessarily a race of who donates the most.
No,
right?
Not at all.
It's about who can come in the memo section and do your thing, man. Like, do it.
It is a K-Fan reference.
Wow.
Let's go.
Okay, see.
Love that.
Okay, see, now this changes the entry. All right, put it back
That's
up.
a winner.
Put it back up.
That to me is in the lead.
That changes things.
That is where is it? There, that's in the lead.
You got to explain K-Fan because I want people to understand this reference and why it matters so
1320 K-Fan.
The sports leader.
1320 K-Fan.
The sports leader.
The old powerhouse sports talk show upstart, which I was the morning show host and program director of before the company sold the land under the transmitter and turned the station off. Thanks for your commitment to sports talk in Salt Lake. It was at 1320 on the AM dial.
Yeah.
I hosted mornings with the great late Will Smith and Ben Napoleon Wilson. I miss those guys. That was so much fun. I took it for granted. But it was just fun. We had fun in the morning. It was amazing. And Brandon Butler showing that he is first time caller, long time listener. Right? Love it. Brandon Butler in the lead. We are going to give away this Xbox Series X and a copy of EA Sports College Football 25. We are going to do that on this here program.
Man, that was well done, dude. I got to give you credit, bro. Like, that was, I haven't thought about K-Fan in quite some time, and that is a good poll right there.
Love it. Let's see. Eric and Raleigh. Wiggs, Pods, Moody, and as many ones first round picks as they can trade for marketing.
Okay, so you're in the stance of anything we can do to get marketing, basically.
And I think that's very interesting because, as I said, Eric in Stillwater I'm kidding. Eric in Durham, Eric in Greensboro.
Charlotte.
Any other North Carolina towns you can think of, please. Eric in Raleigh is a Bay Area sports fan. So Eric and Raleigh actually goes back to my days before 1320K fan.
The sports leader.
To KMBR 680.
The sports leader.
Back in the day. But I'm not willing to give up.
I don't think I'm willing to do all in on Mark. Like I like the opposite of tank for Markkanen is give everything we have for Markkanen. I don't know that I'm willing to do that.
And the Jazz, are the Jazz in a place where you would take on Wiggins? Nah, I don't think so.
And I also am curious, again, purely speculation, but like, do organizations like the Warriors get to a point with the Jazz where they're saying to the Jazz, look, Danny, we get it. You're trying to get as much out of this as possible, but you got to know who you are in this conversation. Yeah, like you're not getting Wiggs, Pods, Moody, and as many first as it takes. We're not doing that.
Yeah. Hundo, I agree with that 100%. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how all that plays out. And it'll be very interesting to see. I think it's a 3-team deal where Markkanen and Wiggins get moved in the same trade. And I think Markkanen ends up in Golden State. I think Wiggins ends up. There's been a lot of talk about Wiggins going to the Nets or the Knicks. There's been a lot of talk about Wiggins ending up in Miami. That's
where he needs to go. He needs to go to the East and just be a guy.
It'll be very interesting to see how long this takes and who ultimately the players end up being. Because it's usually when there's smoke, there's fire. And with that Wiggins, I was told directly, the Warriors understand that it's essentially we move Wiggins, we can land Lauri. And if you move Wiggs, I think this deal gets done. And if ideally you would do that in the same deal. But I'm very curious who's willing to take on Wiggins' salary and for what.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. Like I think Detroit could be a very interesting landing spot in all of this.
But think about you look at like Orlando or teams that are not good right now, but Wiggins could go to and make them better. That's the kind of team you're looking for. So Detroit, Orlando, I don't know that Miami would be interested, but certainly given the fact they're going to move on from Jimmy, I would call them. Brooklyn, certainly. Yeah, I would be calling Houston. I would call, again, like you said, I don't know that San Antonio is too interested, but those are all teams I'd call. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Hell, I'd call the Bulls given the LaVine situation here. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? They could say no.
Yeah, Steph Curry is 37 years old. That's wild to me. Steph Curry is 37 years old. And I think it's very interesting that this roster build right now, it's going to be interesting. And I think it is.
I also think for the Warriors, Markkanen, if you were to get Markkanen and do the contract situation you were talking about where you got to extend him for 1 year so then he can become eligible for a longer term extension on a max, the Warriors with Steph, retiring here certainly in the next 5 years, but I would guess probably 3 years, Markkanen can be your next cornerstone guy. He can be that guy. Now, he's never going to be Steph Curry, but I think that he can be somebody that's a building block. So that's what I'm saying. I do kind of agree with Eric and Raleigh that they need to get this deal done, but they need to do it in a way where they're not giving up the entire farm to do it.
No, and I think, the Warriors do have some trade chips. Let's not kid ourselves. You're looking at a situation with Gary Payton where his contract's expiring and the guy's a defensive stud. But I just go back to Wiggins. Is Wiggins the same guy that locked up Jason Tatum in the finals? Is Wiggins that guy that can make a big shot for you? Well, it seems like that was his last best ride.
Yeah.
Because he's not been the same player. He's not. Brandon Butler, I think listening to you try and herd Kyle Gunther was like watching my kid eat soup with a fork. Kyle Gunther's wildly talented. There is no question about that. Oh, man. I'm telling you that Kyle Gunther is the most talented football analyst that is not working. I don't think he's working. I don't know where Gunther is. He was working at a snowboard shop last I heard. But Kyle Gunther is one of the most talented football analysts that it is like you're trying to herd a whole lasso full of cats, and it's difficult to do that. It was difficult to do that. Eric and Raleigh, hey, guys, can I get an extra entry for the $470 I donated on April 5th? The last Friday Jake worked until today. Okay. I mean, do we give him an extra entry? Sure, but I don't think you're beating Brandon Butler even with an extra entry right now.
Here's the deal, bro. Okay, we're willing to give you another entry, but you're gonna have to come with some heat in like a comment or memo or something. Like, even if you donate just $1 or something, like you're gonna have to come with something.
And I would remind you what we're talking about here is Giving Friday with the Advocates donations. What you need to do, that's their Venmo address right there. Send a donation on Venmo, Advocates donations. Send a screenshot of that donation to Jake on Instagram, SLC Jake, SLC Jake on Instagram, right? After you make your donation, take a screenshot, send it to Jake. We are giving away on the show today an Xbox Series X, as well as a copy of NCAA College Football 25C. In the description of this picture, Jake effed me when he put, oh, dude, NCAA, it's not NCAA football. Okay, I feel better. EA Sports College Football 25.
Right.
And an Xbox Series X. We're giving those away on the show today. All you have to do is make a donation, Advocates donations. 100% of that donation is going to go to help kids that are underprivileged, that don't have school supplies, that don't have backpacks, that don't have, again, I always point to the guy I went to school with who didn't have underwear and was bullied mercilessly. And
okay, not to cut you off.
Shut up. I tell the story of, hey, we figured it out and things changed in that kid's life. But the bottom line is there are a lot of kids that go to school that don't have the ability to compete intellectually because they don't have socks or shoes or clothes. They don't have school supplies, let alone a backpack. So make your donation. That's where all of your donation goes to. Send Jake a screenshot, SLC Jake on Venmo. The latest one is
Maury
Alvarez. Monty Show school kids. What is this radio thing you speak of? I don't need the pro rata I deserve, but I just don't give my dog the ass vacuum yours got. Wow. The ass vacuum yours got is a throwback to when we were in my basement all those years ago when we were doing the show at my house in the basement. And my dog, God rest his soul, that's how long ago it is. My dog is now no longer with us. And he had a butthole problem. And he solved that butthole problem by absolutely going buffet style on his own ass. And that was not ideal when we were throwing shit at him and so he went to the doctor and they, you know.
Okay, now
pro-rated his ass.
This next one we're going to show is someone that I've never heard of before, DMing me. The account on Instagram is literally named Nah, N-A-H.
Nah, bro.
And said, salute from NYC.
Oh, let's go.
So I don't even know. I don't think Nah is competing for the Xbox. I do just think that Nah wanted to
appreciate
donate.
You, Nah.
Yeah, so appreciate you.
Nah, bro.
Nah, bro.
First of all, that's a great Instagram name.
It just says Nah. Like,
hey, man, I'm looking for Nah. Nah, bro. He ain't here.
He ain't here, man.
That's awesome. Thank you for the donation. That's amazing. This one.
The ass vacuum reference is iconic. I do think that's pretty competitive.
So good.
Yeah, that's pretty competitive.
But is it better than K-Fan?
Mm.
And the fact that I, as an intellectual male, was able to figure out the 1320 K-Fan reference.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
I think that helps. I think these two are in the lead. The ass vacuum has to be there.
Yeah.
Has to be there. That's so good. That is so, so good. You know, let's see who else.